software from. All right, so certainly the Debian website would be a good one to have in here, but anything that's in here should be a very, very reputable place to download software from, like the Debian website. Anything as reputable as that would be a good thing to put in here. All right, then you can say, apt-get space update and give the name of some package like Apache. And this will just go out to one of these locations in sources.list and update your Apache web server automatically. Okay, it'll just go download files, download whatever it needs to get that software updated. Same goes for install. If I say apt-get install Apache, it's going to look through all the locations in sources.list, and it's going to go out to all those places and find the latest version of Apache and download that for me. All right, so this is where the Debian Package Manager wins out a little bit, because when you go to do this installation and it's going to install the software from a remote location, well, when it finds dependency information, like it needs some library to install or it needs some other helper application to make this application that you want to install run, then it's just going to download all that stuff for you. It's going to download those libraries and those other dependent packages, and it's just going to do all those installations as best as it can. If it can't find it in sources.list, then it's not going to work. But if you've got Debian in this list and some other websites like that, most of the basic software is going to install that way, and you don't have to worry about all the dependency information. And that's probably why Debian is more highly regarded, because of this feature right here. I'm going to try and show you something that Red Hat uses to try and approximate apt-get, or maybe they're not just copying apt-get, they're doing their own thing. But basically, there's this Red Hat feature that can kind of mimic what this does, and we'll talk about that briefly when we're back out on the Linux screen, so I can just kind of give you an idea of what it does and how it works. Finally, there's tar files. Like we said before, tar files are the age-old way to distribute software in Unix in the early days of Linux, and it still works perfectly fine today, and it works on every distribution that's out there equally well. If you have Slackware Linux, you're going to have to learn how to distribute or how to install software from tar files, because that's the only thing that Slackware supports. It doesn't support any of those package managers. Generally, it's more work to install software from a tar file, because once you unwrap the tar file, there's all these directories, and maybe you're going to have to compile some source code. Maybe, though, there is an executable version of the software in the tar file, and in that case, it's not that much more work to install. The basic use of a tar file is something like this. You'll say tar xvf, and the name of the package, which ends in .tar, and then you give a directory where you want to install it. Now maybe the package ends in .tgz. Now, .tgz means it's a tar file, but it's been compressed. That's what the GZ is representing. And in that case, you got to stick a Z in this option field here. So you got to say tar xvzf package.tgz, and then you give the directory. All right? So once you do this, then it takes this single tar file and it unwraps it. And in this directory now, you're going to have a whole bunch of files and subdirectories of subdirectories potentially, and just a ton of stuff's going to be in there. Invariably, in that directory, in the top, in the actual package directory that you specified there, there's going to be this file in there called readme, okay? And guess what you should do with it? Just throw it away. No, read it, okay? And this is telling you what to do for the next steps. All right, it's going to tell you how to compile the source code, what kinds of files you should change for these kinds of settings, how you should change the make file to compile the source code. Or if it's just a binary executable, it'll tell you how to do various things with the piece of software. All right, so don't just toss this, don't just ignore it. Actually read it, and read it carefully, and that'll help you progress through this. And the more software you install with tar files, the more standardized readmes will seem to become, and then after a while you can start just kind of like skimming through them and getting the necessary information out of them, and then you can progress on with your software installation that way. All right, so that's the basics of tar files. We're going to talk a lot more about the tar command 5 or 10 videos down the road once we start talking about backups and maintaining our system. We'll learn all about the tar command. We'll learn what all these various options mean and what they do, and I'll just save all that specific discussion of tar for those lectures. Now let's use some of those tools that we've been talking about. So I'm going to open up a Mozilla web browser to go out on the internet and download some RPM files, and we're going to download those RPM files and install them on our system. So I'm going to go to a website that's called www.rpm, or just 3 W's, .rpmfind.net. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, and now we're on the rpmfind.net server. You can see here it's hosted by speakeasy.net, which is out here in Seattle. And if you page down here, you can see there's a mirror site in Boston, and there's also other mirror sites in Europe. So you should just go to the site that's closest to you so you minimize the amount of time you spend downloading. Now here's a search box, and we can actually search for software using this utility. I'm going to search for this piece of software called XV, which is an image viewer, like a GIF or JPEG images. It allows you to view the images and manipulate them and do things like that. So I'm going to click on search, and it's going to look for the XV utility out there in the RPM site. And you can see here it's found one site for XV, and this is just information about XV, a manual, that kind of stuff on how to use it. And then there's a bunch of RPMs for XV. You can see here these are source RPM, so we'd have to compile those. Let's just look down here for i386 versions. There's an i386 version. There's another one right there. There's a PowerPC version and a Spark version and so on. Okay, so as you come down here, you can see there's just tons and tons of versions. There's different distributions out there that you can get the versions from. I'm just going to get this one right here, the i386 version that's version 3.10 of XV. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and now it's going to ask me, it's going to bring up a dialog box and ask me what to do with the file. First, I want to say yes, save it to disk, so I'm going to click OK. And then it says, you want to save this to the /temp directory. That's a fine place to save it, because everybody on the system can write to /temp. All right, so I'm going to say save the RPM file to the /temp directory, and now while it's saving, I'll just pause the video here. All right, so we're down 2 seconds left, 1 second left, and now it's complete. So the download's complete. It took 56 seconds to download it, and now it's in the /temp directory. So I'm going to close this window, the dialog box here, and then I'm going to minimize the web browser window and bring up my command line interface window. And let's copy that file from the /temp directory over to /opt. All right, so let's go up to the /opt directory. And this is the place where you put optional software. It's just good to keep it all there. At least that's what I do, just to keep track of what optional software I put on my system. All the RPM files will be in the /opt directory. Okay, now what I'm going to do is copy that file from the /temp directory. It's called XV, and I'll just hit the tab to complete it with all the version numbers and the architecture information and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll put that in the /opt directory, and I'm just going to say dot to give it the exact same name. Okay, so I do that, and now it should be in this directory, and there's the XV file. And now what I'm going to do is install it with the RPM program. So I'm going to say RPM minus IVH XV. Again, I'll hit tab to complete it so I don't have to type all that stuff. And now I stands for install, remember, and V and H are the things that print the hash marks across the screen to let you know how the installation is progressing, how far along it is. So I'm just going to hit enter here, and now you'll see the hash marks move across the screen, 100% installed. You know, that was pretty quick. And now we've got the XV program on our system. Now, one thing when we install that, we got all sorts of other things as well. We can now do a man page on XV, so I can say man XV and then see the manual page. You can page through this at your leisure. I'm just going to hit Q to quit out of this. But installing the software also installed that. That's just what I was trying to show you there. We can run the program just by typing XV. If I type XV, then I get this initial screen. You can see down here it says press right mouse button for menu, so I'll click my right mouse button. And now I get this menu here, and I can load files. And I can bring them in and manipulate them and edit them and see them or whatever. So let me load a file in. From the opt directory, I'm going to go up a directory. So that dot means go up a level. So I'll double click on that. I'll double click on home to go down there. I'll double click on Perry to go into my home directory. And now I'll page down here, and there's this file here called sunset.jpg. So I'll double click on that. And now you can see the sunset.jpg file is open here, and I can manipulate it with the various tools of XV. Here I can rotate it with this button. You can see it's rotated on the side, rotate it again. I guess that's a sailboat in the southern hemisphere or something. Okay, rotate it again, and there's, you know, what we can do to it. We can crop pieces out of it. So if I want to crop out the sunset, I can drag with the left mouse button over the area, click on the scissors, and that blacks it out, so I could put something else in there if I was trying to play around and manipulate the image. Okay, so that's kind of how XV works. I'm just going to close it all here. I don't even want to save that. Just click the X button here to close the window, close this one off, and now the XV program's over. Okay, now so that's one way to run it, just like that. A lot of people find it easier to run stuff out of the main menu. Instead of having to remember all the various names of the software on their system, they'd rather just, you know, kind of page through the main menu. So what we can do is add it to a menu here. So we can go to Programs, we can go to Settings, and then we can go to Menu Editor. I'll left click on that, and now we get the no menu editor. It's reading all the menus, and now you can see here favorites is highlighted, and that's typically where we put user stuff. Favorites, user menus is the favorites subcategory, and then the system menu is the one that says programs. Okay, so we'll just put it in favorites. We'll say new item. Now it says what's the name of the item. It just says untitled at first, but we'll